Well, that wasn't good. Well, parts of it were good, but when you lose at the end like that, when you can't stop a team at the end like that, when you have the worst first down discrepancy in franchise history in 59 years like that, it's a bit of a mess. Broncos at 1-2, plenty to talk about here on this edition of Denver Football After Dark, so let's get to it. Way after dark here after week 3 in the NFL, week 3 for the Broncos as they fall to 1-2 after that 23-20 loss to the Los Angeles Chargers. And the Broncos now 1-6 at SoFi Stadium. Literally the only time they've won at SoFi Stadium so far was when Justin Herbert did not make it through the game back in 2023. So if the quarterback of the opposing team from Los Angeles makes it through the game, the Broncos have lost. So it goes here. I think they're happy to have Los Angeles in their rearview mirror for another year, at least in terms of being out here. But it was a winnable game, despite having a 29-9 disadvantage in first downs, despite the offense having most of its work clustered in about a 5-minute stretch around halftime. It was still a winnable game. And yet the Broncos let it slip away at the end for a second straight week. So let's dive right in on Denver Football After Dark here for this post-game Sunday night, Monday morning from here, high above the Marriott LAX, high atop, I should say. Here at the top floor, if you look way off in the background there, the runway for LAX off in the distance, lights from where I am shining reflecting in the window behind me here on the 18th floor at the good old Marriott. So anyway, 23-20, once again, at least in terms of the public, I see a lot of the comments, not just, of course, here on YouTube, but see them on social media. I've made it a point to try not to check my comments and my replies very much on social media because what I've seen, by and large, is a grease fire. And when I do look at it, I see comments such as, cut Bo Nix, trade Bo Nix, give up on Bo Nix. That's not going to happen. They're committed to Bo Nix. I mean, let's just kind of keep this thing in the realm of reality here. But what is real is that so far this season, this is a very middling team. The results bear that out. The stats bear that out. I mean, we'll certainly get some of the more advanced analytics as we get into Monday and Tuesday. But if you just go by total defense, total offense, Broncos are 19th in both through 3 games. Now, for the offense, okay. You expected some bumps. You still have a young quarterback. You haven't gotten much out of the tight end position with Evan Engram now battling a back injury. But this defense, even without Dre Greenlaw, look, you have Pat Surtain, the reigning defensive player of the year. You have 2 returning second-team All-Pros. And, Nick Bonitto's off to a great start this year. Jonathan Cooper's off to a good start. Talanoa Hufanga's off to a tremendous start, although the penalties today were costly against him. You're getting some terrific individual performances on the defensive side of the ball, and yet you look up at the end of week 3, and this team is, as of right now, heading into Monday night, 19th in total defense. Something's wrong with this picture. They get stops throughout the game, And yet in the fourth quarter, give up a touchdown drive. Chargers march downfield. And then at the end of the touchdown drive, Justin Herbert breaks out of the pocket. Very nice play. Like, Justin Herbert's a terrific quarterback. Justin Herbert is in that elite tier of quarterbacks, and he made an elite tier play. And then found Keenan Allen in the end zone. Riley Moss in coverage. Coverage wasn't that bad, although Riley Moss is having a tough start to the season, no doubt, but the coverage wasn't bad. He wasn't beaten by a mile on that play. And that ties the score. And then the last drive, Herbert 4 for 4. And the thing about it was, sometimes it goes beyond stats. It goes beyond a feeling. It goes to a feeling, kind of a gut feeling. When Justin Herbert completed that first pass of that drive, the sense I had in that stadium watching that was, the Chargers are going to win this game. Just taking stock of the way guys are moving, the way, just even the way guys are lining up, seeing, maybe some slumped shoulders, maybe just a pep in the step of the Chargers as they're getting back to the line of scrimmage. It looked like one team was about to win the game and one team was about to lose it. And the results in the moments thereafter reflected that. I mean, perhaps this is sort of what J.K. Dobbins is talking about when he talks about this team having to learn how to win, although first he said you have to learn how to stop losing. The thing he said to me after the game was that, and I've heard this before from other guys over the years, that more games in the NFL are lost than won. He felt like this game was lost by the Broncos. I mean, I don't think he wanted to disrespect his old team, but you certainly can look at moments where this was lost. You can look at the penalties. I mean, that's an obvious one. And some were costly, some weren't. Like Nick Bonito had the offsides penalty on a punt that kept the Chargers drive alive, but the Chargers still punted at the end of that series. So you could say that wasn't necessarily costly in the way that some other infractions were. But you look at pre-snap penalties, you look at, you have open receivers. I mean, Bo Nix has 3 chances for deep shots, and he misses 3 deep shots, just slightly overthrown. I mean, those are plays you want to see one of them hit right. You want to get one of them. Just one of them might have made a difference in this game. And on a deep shot, look, you're not expecting a 100% success rate or even 50% success rate, but you'd like to get 1 out of 3. Of course, that led to a very vociferous defense of Bo Nix from J.K. Dobbins, and here is J.K. standing up for his quarterback in the locker room after the game.
Nah, he ain't missed no throws. He played a great game. We got his back. I got his back. He's a great quarterback. It's a team game. We lost as a team. It's not on him. Guys, I got to make more plays for him, and that's it. Yeah, he ain't make no bad throws. He just, it is what it is. We got to make a play for him. Even if it's not a good, place ball, you got to make the play. So that's what it is.
That kind of reflects the whole locker room so far, and that is one positive thing that you do see. You saw it last week, you saw it this week, is players looking more at themselves and what they could do rather than pointing the finger at others. It is a healthy part of the team culture. To continue with Bo Nix, Silent Sticks asking the question. I appreciate you, Silent. Thank you. Why is Bo so jittery throwing? I mean, a few of us were having this conversation earlier tonight after finishing in the press box. 3 of us that basically closed down the press box tonight. Had a little dinner across the street from the SoFi Stadium complex, and we were basically comparing Bo Nix and Justin Herbert. Now, Justin Herbert's obviously, a few more years down the line than Bo Nix, but one of the things that you see And it's not so much jittery, but you're kind of talking about pocket presence, and you're talking about how they look when they're moving around. When Justin Herbert is escaping, the thing that he does, he keeps his eyes downfield really well. Like he kind of sidesteps and, he like he just kind of shuffles laterally, and, he does a good job keeping those eyes more often than not focused downfield as he moves. It's one of his gifts. And sometimes you see Bo Nix do some spinning, and that's something that you kind of want to break out of him. But it definitely seems a bit rougher. I would say this. There was a period of time last year, as you got into October and November, that Bo was definitely in a good rhythm, especially with a lot of those short to intermediate passes. And you could see just was clicking very much. And it peaked in that Atlanta Falcons game when he had the type of game that, statistically speaking, has rarely been seen. And definitely not from a rookie. What the Raiders did the following game was they structured their defense. They basically decided we're going to take away short to intermediate at all costs. We're gonna force you to throw outside the numbers here. We're gonna take away a lot of the rhythm and timing stuff that you saw against the Falcons in particular. Just Broncos ate the Falcons alive, and the Broncos won against the Falcons. And Nix didn't have a bad day, but the efficiency was down that day. And then a week later, Monday Night Football, you start seeing the cluster of interceptions. You start seeing the accuracy go down. And one of the things I've always said, and I've noted about the path of young quarterbacks, is when there's enough film to have a book on them, so to speak, the thing that is always what tells the tale of whether a young quarterback is going to go to that next level is what's the counter move. Like, okay, everyone's kind of figured out that for, what they're doing well at first. What's the counter move? What's the adjustment? What more do you find in the quarterback's game? Can they go to the next level? It's why quarterback development is never like this. It's always it goes up and down. It's why once you get past like the first half season, 3/4 of a season, you got to get away from like the game by game thing. And I know Sean Payton he's kind of said you can't do that. You're not going to do the week to week grade, nor should you. Yeah. The minimum you should set is quarters of a season in terms of mileposts. And what you've seen some, in terms of the efficiency numbers, you've seen it come down a bit. Really, with the exception of the Chiefs game last year against the Scrubs. So you want to see kind of what that counter move is. Even wide open throws, wide jump forward. Yeah, the footwork. The footwork is a little bit of a concern, and we talked about the footwork coming out of week one, and Joe Lombardi talked about the footwork as well. He was asked about it at his press conference coming out of the Titans game, and he mentioned that. And you're seeing some jittery footwork where it doesn't always have to be. Look, you're going to have off-platform throws when you're under duress, and you've got to be able to hit those. Every quarterback in the league who succeeds has to hit off-platform throws when they're under pressure. It's not going to be a clean pocket all the time, or even sometimes half the time. But the concern sometimes is when you're going off platform and the foot and the base is off when it doesn't have to be. That's all, and that's something that you want to look into. So Sean's got to stop so many screens, more slants and curls. Well, the thing with the screens, though, I appreciate the question, Silent. Thank you very much. This thing with the screens is the screen pass is always the antidote to pressure. And if you're going to take some of the edge off a heavy pass rush, the screen is the counter to that. So that's one of the reasons why you want to have that in the arsenal. And another thing with the guys that you have on this team, you have some good blocking receivers, and you have a pretty athletic offensive line. You have guys who can get out in space and block. So you have the personnel to run screens effectively and succeed. So there are times that you've got to do it to take the spice off the rush, but you've also really got the personnel to be effective with the screen pass. So I gotta say, Silent, I don't think you're going to see those go out of the offense. And also for Sean Payton, they've been effective for a while. Although again, to go back to it's a base level metric is total offense, but he hasn't had a top half of the league offense since Drew Brees' retirement, and he hasn't had a top 10 offense in total offense since 2019. And early in this season, the Broncos are 19th in total offense. So that there is now that question about the ability to have a great offense post Drew Brees. And if the Broncos can't get going on a consistent basis on offense this season, those questions are probably going to start getting louder. Because at that point, it will be 4 seasons post Brees, 21, 23, 24, 25. And now 21, there were definitely mitigating circumstances after Jameis Winston got hurt and the chaos at quarterback in New Orleans. But you didn't have an injury at quarterback in 23, didn't have an injury at quarterback in 24. You had a rookie in 24, obviously. And with Russell Wilson, they did modify the offense to suit Russ, and it was a mid-tier offense in 23. It was a mid-tier offense in 24. So anyway, Denver football after dark here. I always like to kind of get going with that sort of 15 to 18 minute soliloquy. So appreciate the kind words, Michael. Thank you very much. People are already trashing Sean and Bo. Yep. When you're 1-2, people are looking for scapegoats. They are looking for the locker room may not be pointing fingers, but the public is pointing fingers. That is just the nature. It's the nature of fandom. It's the nature of the NFL. That is something that's part and parcel of this. A self-destructive team. Yeah. It needs to be more disciplined. I mean, that is another thing that kind of frustrates you is the self-inflicted wounds that this team, that sometimes this team is its own worst enemy. Like on the one hand, it's like, okay, well, these things are correctable because it's on them. But on the other hand, why do these things keep happening? And if it's a well-coached team, why do these mistakes not go away? Why do you see them? It gets frustrating after a while. I put out there on social media, by the way, that we're now 38 games into the Sean Payton era, and the team is 19-19. Now, in the previous 38 games, the Broncos went 13-25. Objectively, this team is better than it was before. The talent is better. The performance is better. In the first 19 games of the Sean Payton era, the team was 8-11. In the last 19, it's 11-8. So, okay, that's another sign of progress. But now let's take some other sample sizes, okay? The last 12 games, and we're including the playoff game in all of these, by the way, as we get to 38 games. The last 12 games for the Broncos, they're 6-6. Last 8 games, they're 4-4. So we are now looking at a team that, for a reasonable stretch here, has played 500 football. So you could say that perhaps the development and growth of this team has stalled a bit. Doesn't mean it can't pick up, and certainly you may feel a little bit different in a few weeks, because over the next few weeks, you've got a Bengals team that looked positively awful on Sunday with Jake Browning filling in for Joe Burrow. Browning looking nothing like the quarterback that he was 2 years ago when he filled in for Burrow. Again, there's a book on Jake Browning now that there wasn't 2 years ago. And Minnesota specifically went against a Browning-led Bengals team. That phenomenal overtime game that they played back in December 2023 on that Saturday, that was a few hours before the Broncos-Lions game. Of course, the Russell Wilson, Sean Payton sideline confrontation where Payton yelled at him, and Russ just wasn't really a confrontation because Russ just kind of replied with nothing. I mean, I actually remember my late father texting me, my late father noticing that, and him and my mom like messaging me about that during the game. And actually, I didn't see it on the television. It was them that let me know what was going on, because I couldn't really, where I was sitting, I didn't have a good view of the television, and they kind of clued me in to what had happened. And it was through them that I informed the rest of the press corps of what was taking place on the sideline. So, hat tip to my dear old dad there on that one. Yeah, that's another example. There's now a book on Browning, and the Vikings in particular had a game of going against him, and they adapted, and you saw the results of that adaptation on Sunday afternoon, and they cleaned the Bengals' clocks. So the Broncos surely will kind of lean on that book and probably adapt accordingly. And so the next few weeks ought to be pretty good on balance for the Broncos. They'll be able to get back on their feet in all likelihood. They may have just played two of the toughest games on their schedule at Indy and at the Chargers. The Chargers appear to be very good. And now the Broncos are, as I've mentioned on previous shows, the Broncos are in chase mode against the Colts, or against the Chargers, pardon me. They're 2 games back, and they may be 2 games back for a while. That's just maybe the reality of this season, that they may be looking up at the Chargers for much of the year. But the Broncos do have a chance to get back on their feet here. Bengals game, and then, of course, the Eagles game. And, yeah, that's going to be tough sledding in Philly. That Eagles-Rams game, probably was two legitimate Super Bowl contenders slugging it out, decided on a special teams play at the end. And that's probably going to be a tough row to hoe for the Broncos in South Philly. But then after that, you have 4 games against teams that are currently a combined 1-11. Now, the Texans, they'll probably get things back together to some degree, but the Giants stink. The Jets stink. The Cowboys don't look like they can stop anybody. Their defense looks like 11 traffic cones. In other words, you can see potentially 6-3 from here, realistically. So, long term, are the Broncos going to be okay? Are they going to get back in the race? Are they in dire trouble right now when it comes to being in the race? No, they're not. But is this Broncos team a Super Bowl team, as Sean Payton has proclaimed that they have a chance? They're not there yet. Right now, he's written some checks with his proclamations that this team isn't ready to cash. Doesn't mean they can't get there this season. It's a long season. There are 15 games left, but they're not there. They're a ways off. They're a ways off in a lot of areas. They're a ways off at quarterback. They're a ways off in terms of overall quality of pass catchers. I mean, because they're still not getting anything from the tight end. They're a ways off in terms of avoiding their own self-inflicted wounds. They're ways off in consistency on the defense. Frankly, Pat Surtain, the first 3 games, teams are going at him more. This is also a really interesting, and not interesting in a positive way, development for this D, is that now, 2 straight games, the quarterbacks aren't scared to throw in Surtain's direction. And he put that play early in the game where he didn't finish on bringing down Quentin Johnston, and Johnston got away for the big play. He took the responsibility for that. He put it on himself. But it's really interesting to see first Daniel Jones and now Justin Herbert. It's almost like, for opposing quarterbacks, a little bit of that aura regarding PS2 is wearing off a little bit. Aura, fear of throwing in that direction. If you saw Rocky IV way back, it's like after Rocky made Ivan Drago bleed, and Duke tells him, like, you cut him, you made him bleed. He's human. That's kind of what it feels like with opposing quarterbacks and PS2 right now. And if that's the case, it opens things up, because all of a sudden now it's not, I can't throw to that side of the field anymore. Now the whole field is open. Now they're working sideline to sideline, instead of saying, okay, well, this part of the field is a no-go zone. That may not be the case anymore. And that changes the trigonometry of the field, basically. Oh, man alive. Just beat the Eagles. Bo Nix breakout game, says Silent Sticks. Yeah, that would be a heck of a day for a breakout, to go into South Philly and get it done in 2 weeks. That would be a heck of a day for it. I mean, you talk about a statement. That would be a statement against the defending champions, a team that looks like it's not going away anytime soon. Doesn't, even though old friend Vic Fangio's D doesn't look quite as stout, as they're working in a lot of new guys, they still have that. See, I speak of aura. It's still a team that has that aura about it. They've changed some of the personnel again on that side of the ball, but they still have that medal. I'd say that championship medal. I'd say certain things like that counts for 4 or 5 points easy. It's like it's I would say in men's college basketball, for example, a great home court advantage. I'd say when Duke plays at Cameron Indoor Stadium, I think when they step onto the court, I feel like they've got 8 points just instantly when they take the court in that building, just because of that crowd and that environment and kind of the aura of everything. The Eagles, kind of the aura around them, they probably take the field with 5 on the board that you have to overcome. So anyway, Denver football after dark here on this Sunday night into Monday morning. It's actually it's Monday morning everywhere in the lower 48 here, because it's now Monday morning here in Los Angeles, not too far from LAX there. We'll hear from Sean Payton again in a little under 9 hours from as I record this. He'll have his conference call after he's gone through the film. It's always interesting to see what that reveals. I'm curious to see if he comments about any of the penalties, looking back on them. Because, of course, last week he talked about the leverage penalty and that being a fair adjudication in his opinion. So, anyway, how do you look at the film to find things to fix when the real film is what the coaches need to fix? Well, I mean, I feel like the dude in The Big Lebowski, one of the great all-time LA movies, a movie in which LA itself is a character, and saying, well, that's just like your opinion, man. I would say this is a loss where, yes, some of it is on the coaches and the players. Everybody's on this, but you kind of find out what they believe is on the coaches. If you see coaching changes at the end of the year, like the Broncos made a couple of staff changes, they moved on from Greg Minuski coaching linebackers after last season, and sometimes you see changes happening, and that's because they feel they can do better from the staff. They feel, and if you see a coaching change like that, then I think it's clear what they blame. So, and that's on me, guaranteed at least one time from Sean. I actually, what I've been meaning to do is to go through the transcripts and see the times he says some variation of "that's on me." The guy who used that a lot was Dwayne Stukes back in 2022. And what it led me to say was, if you keep saying "that's on me," eventually the powers that be decide it truly is on you and you pay for it with your job. So that's something to think about. Victory Lap says, did you get some in and out? No, not yet. And probably not on this trip. I don't know if I'm going to have time. The other thing is, even though they say in and out doesn't quite hit the same outside of California, and I can say there's some truth to that, but it does come pretty close enough down at the Park Meadows location that I frequent, probably get there once a month. So that does the trick for me. I'll probably end up having dinner there on Friday night. because there aren't many places that have kitchens that are open late, and sometimes I just don't get a chance to eat. Like, one of the things is I don't really eat as much. Portion control has very much become a thing for me, as you can probably, some of you point out and notice, and I appreciate that. And I'll look up and it's 10:30, and I'll realize, oh my gosh, I didn't eat today, and I don't feel like cooking, and there aren't many options. And at 10:30, there's In-N-Out. So that probably happens about once a month for me. And I'm cheap, and it's one of the last good cheap meals out there. No, I'm not cheap. My mom, if my mom's watching, she'll say, no, it's not cheap, it's frugal. So anyway, there you go, frugal. Anyhow, how's the plane noise from your pad? These windows, it's, if you saw Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, when he pulls the sliding glass door and he goes quiet, double pane soundproof glass that they've got here, because I'm 10 floors below, and I'm also facing out this way, and boy howdy, I did not hear a thing last night. I slept soundly. I about eight and a half glorious hours of sleep, and I didn't hear a thing except the sound of the ACC basketball tournament highlight film from 1977 and 1979, which you can find on YouTube, playing in the background as I fell asleep. So that was it. So yeah, it's terrific. Make a great head coach for the Denver Broncos. No, I wouldn't. No, I absolutely wouldn't. I would not be a good speaker in front of the room. My motivational speeches would be terrible. I would struggle at I would struggle at some of the aspects of, like, technique for, like, D linemen and that kind of thing. I mean, I'm good at being able to identify something. I'm not good at being able to kind of explain in a teaching mode. I can look at film and say, okay, this is off. But then in terms of how to get it right, I'm not very good at conveying it. Like, I'll give you an example of, like, a really good coach at that is, like, Jim Leonard. That's something that I've heard from a lot of guys who played for him at Wisconsin, a bunch of guys who played for him at Wisconsin, is, like, he's good at explaining, like, how to get better in your technique. That he's good at also explaining, taking complex concepts and simplifying them. The one thing I could do probably is I could do game management, clock management, that sort of thing. That I could do. Everything else, I will admit, no, you would not want me there. But I appreciate the sentiment, but I know what I don't know. There's a lot of people out there who don't know what they don't know. I know what I don't know. I am cursed with self-awareness. And as we heard in Bull Durham, it was one of the many things Annie Savoy quoted: "The world is made for those who aren't cursed with self-awareness." So, Mace is the next Rosberg. If I ever were coach, Gino and Will, I would do it like Rosberg. Like, I would get up there and I would pontificate, and I would like those 2 weeks. It's like he knew he had this chance to have the microphone and say everything he wanted to say, and he was going to say it in that time. If you remember, I think of Adam Sandler's character in The Wedding Singer. Well, I have the microphone and you don't, so you will listen to every word I say. Jerry did that in a much nicer way, but it's like, for those 2 weeks, he had the microphone and he was going to say everything that was on his mind. The world according to Jerry Rosberg. If he had been the head coach for a year, my goodness, it would have been wild. But he would have had to, in his speeches to the team, he would have had to rein in the stories, because one thing that was happening is that he was talking a lot when he was addressing the team, and it was going to be too much. He was going to have to reel that thing in, bring those speeches in for a landing, get them done quicker, because that would have worn pretty thin. Even though clearly the team was better organized, better disciplined, better prepared under him. I mean, he did make a positive impact in 2 weeks. I mean, that was, y'all watched the games, that was obvious. It was, rarely has it been so clear from a coaching change just which Pistons weren't firing as it was at the end of the 2023 season. You watch that and you're like, man, this really wasn't a 5-12 team. This was probably a team that should have won at minimum 7 games. Probably it was a 7-10 win team. And lo and behold, the next year, how many games did they win? 8. That's probably about what the 2022 team should have won. Again, 7-10, somewhere in there. It wasn't a bad team as it finished 5-12, and it was 4-11 with Hackett. It was probably so. It was a bad team with Hackett. It was probably it should have been a mid-tier team with average coaching. So, anyway, Denver football after dark here. Has Sean ever emphasized the defense needing to be more disciplined or better on third down? I mean, it's something every coach brings that up when it's not working. I don't know if he specifically said that, but it's something that I have heard at some point from every coach I've covered, that, yeah, they got to get it done on third down if it's not working. So that's something that is that's clear. How's the Broncos scouting team stack up around the league? A little worried after this last draft. Well, I mean, it actually stacks up very well. And first of all, it's 3 games. All right. 1, 2, 3. 3 games. It's 3 games, and you have 2 draft picks who have been scratches, and they're not scratches because they're not good enough. I'm talking about Q Robinson and Savion Jones. It's not that they can't play. It's that they're at pretty stacked positions. I mean, Savion Jones is D lineman number 7. He's not playing because Jordan Jackson and Eni Awazarike had great camps, and they both stuck, and they both made the team. So he's in just an unfortunate position, but he had a good camp as well. But the veterans just had a bit better camps. But Savion Jones is a huge part of the reason why JFM is probably not getting re-signed, because they know they've got young first contract guys. Q Robinson is in a different spot because they've just re-signed the 2 starters, and the 2 backup edges, both of whom are having very good starts to the season, in Dondre Tillman and Jonah Ellis. I mean, Dondre had another quarterback. He had a quarterback hit today, so he on a per snap basis, he's once again had one of the more efficient edge rushers in the league, just like he was last year. So his problem is that he is probably at the deepest position on the team at edge. It's why, if I were the Broncos, I'd start considering maybe doing what they did with Baron Browning as a rookie. If you recall, with Browning, they moved him to inside linebacker when the team was struggling at inside backer. Part of it was just the issues they had an inside backer. Part of it was they wanted to get BB on the field, and it ended up kind of working out for everybody. Barron got the snaps he needed to get. It helped him develop, and frankly helped him when he had to go back out on the edge the following year. One of the things that a few of us were discussing after the game was like the special teams. Mims has been his usual self, and Crawshaw has been terrific, but coverage and blocking has been a little bit underwhelming. Coverage in particular, there was another coverage bust on a punt today. Like that, it hurt Crawshaw's net average, but that was not on him. He did his job. That was good hang time. It was to the left side. It was inside the 20. That punt was exactly what you wanted it to be, and it was just a coverage bust. So I guess my point being, I mean, Q's one of the reasons they drafted Q was for special teams. So all this is my way of saying I think you pointing the finger at the scouts, I think, is completely misguided, because they've had good drafts over the years. And again, 3 games. Okay, they're not getting much out of the draft picks so far other than Jeremy Crawshaw. It's 3 games. 3 games. So, anyway. And yes, Jeremy Crawshaw is very consistent. I mean, it's funny. Like, there was so much consternation about him in the preseason, and now it looks like he is one of the better punters in football. Now, like, 3 games in, it's like, okay, yeah, that's why they drafted him. Like, he looks the part. Now it's like they started doing the random punts in practice, and all of a sudden the switch just flipped for him. So anyway. Anyway. Denver football after dark, and yes, I agree. Jonah Ellis is awesome. Edge is the best overall position on the team if you take the quality of the starters and the quality of the backups. You got 5 guys who can play. I mean, as terrific as Nick Bonito is, if something happened to Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper, I mean, you don't want anything to happen, but if they lost a starter, even of Bonito's quality, they'd be okay if they lost a starter, because the reserves are that good. I mean, Jonah would start for a lot of teams. Dondre would start for a bunch of teams. That's how good those guys are. It certainly does beg the question, not now, not in season, but in the off season, especially if you're maybe trying to trade up in the draft. Do you trade from that position to move up in the draft if there's a player you really want? I mean, you don't like trading edges because the position is so important, and you really do love going 4 deep, but since you have somebody you really like who's sitting there inactive every week, it may be something that you end up thinking about in the offseason, perhaps, as a trade from that position, because you are pretty deep there. So anyway, Denver football after dark here on this Monday morning. Should Davis take play calling duties if they lose to the Bengals? That I put that one comment up there silent, and I know that is something that a lot of people are suggesting, that the play calling reins get handed off. It is not something that I have any indication is imminent. So I just want to kind of put that out there right now. It's not something that I hear is in the works in any way, shape, or form. But if the results continue to be what they are, if the offense continues to be inconsistent, I'm one who says you have to consider everything at some point. And if you keep looking up and seeing the offense being mid-tier, you have to ask yourself why and go through all the possibilities. And then you start saying, okay, I mean, what's missing here? And then you start saying, okay, is it A, B, C, D, going down the list? What could be different? What can be tweaked here? By the way, in rushing offense, you ranked eighth going into Sunday night, by the way. So that is one glitch that appears to have been fixed. You're running the ball better. By the way, Javonte Williams is running the ball very well in Dallas. Some of that may be simply a function of being one more year removed from the injury. But J.K. Dobbins is doing a great job in Denver. So it seems like it's one of those situations where everybody's winning. Javonte's doing well, and I like Javonte, and I'm glad he's doing well. I think everyone should be happy for him. He's a very good guy. But the Broncos are doing fine in that area too with J.K. Dobbins. Now, you do want to see more from R.J. Harvey. So far, aside from that big run he had in week 1, hasn't been there yet. So that's something that needs to improve. So, let go of the ego. Let's win. It's not ego. What is it then? That's something to think about. Ego, stubbornness. It's a lot to think about. He's called plays for a long time. And he's done it, and most of his career he's done it very well. But he is a bottom line guy. And he believes in a lot of the Bill Parcells-isms. Bill Parcells always said, "You are what your record says you are." And I go back to, the record says they're 1-2 right now. It's a small sample size, so you don't get too worked about that. But it's a 500 record since the start of the 2023 season. And I go back through the offenses post Drew Brees, and they have not been as productive as they were with Drew Brees for Sean Payton. So I'm just, all I'm doing is stating facts. That's all. I leave the interpretation up to other people. And, your mileage may vary, but it is what it is. And at some point, if the performance is not of a standard, you have to ask why, and you have to consider everything, even the things that you don't want to consider, even the things that hit closest to home. But 3 weeks into the season, you're not there yet. That's probably something that I would say is another month off. And hey, 4 weeks from now, you might be feeling pretty good. Everything might have gotten back on its feet. This thing might be rolling, and everybody might be happy. Okay? That can happen. We've all seen seasons turn on a dime. I mean, this team may explode against the Bengals in 7 days on Monday Night Football, and everyone may be feeling pretty good and happy, and souls may be light and joyful in Broncos country. Right now, it seems pretty dark. And out less than Whataburger. I will say, Whataburgers, there are two things about Whataburger. Number one, more variety. So I do wish there was a Whataburger closer. The closest one is down in the Springs. And I do wish there was one closer, because sometimes late at night I want a salad, and I can't get a salad at In-N-Out, but I can get a salad at Whataburger. And of course, they do serve breakfast as you get into the late night hours, overnight hours. They start serving breakfast again because it gets so late. It's early, and the breakfasts are really good there. And their spicy ketchup is the nectar of the gods. But I still like the burgers better at In-N-Out than Whataburger. I've just had bad experiences, but I've been disappointed with the burgers at Whataburger over the years. Just me. But I love the breakfast at Whataburger, and I like the salads at Whataburger. So I just order different things. So anyway. And actually, Michael shouts out Culver's. I think Culver's has a better burger than Whataburger. Culver's has terrific burgers. Culver's is my, especially in the Midwest, is my reliable road trip stop. The other thing about Culver's that I like is on the road. Sometimes I have to do work on the road. Culver's usually has excellent Wi-Fi, and if I need to work for an hour or an hour and a half, they leave me alone. Like, they let you sit there and work. Even if you just eat for like 15 or 20 minutes, but you work for an hour or an hour and a half, they leave you be. It's like Starbucks in that way. They don't rush you out. They just, at least in my experience, they don't rush you to the door. They just, oh, you had something to eat, but you're working, like, fine. Just do your thing, and then you just go. You can just refill your soda or your tea or whatever and go on your way. So, like, there are a lot of times when I'm driving back and forth between Denver and Wisconsin, because I do that a few times a year. But I've got to post a story here because something came across, and I'll stop in like Iowa or Nebraska or something, and I'll find a Culver's, and I'll have a quick bite, and then I'll just write my story and then post and then get back on the road. So I've done a fair amount of work in Culver's restaurants, and I appreciate that, but I also appreciate the food. I have very very down market tastes. I love food, and I mean, I could be a food critic, but I'm not a food snob. Like, I do like good fast food, like, or just diner food, stuff like that. I don't need 5-star fanciness. I just, I like the holes in the wall. Anyway. Oh boy, here we go. What does the upcoming quarterback draft class look like? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, y'all. Oh my. Let's breathe. Let's just let the season play out. Oh. Well, let's see. Oh. Get that. We're going to delete that comment. Hit the wrong button there. We don't like cursing. Sorry. I keep it clean here. What do you think they need to succeed? Like, what this team needs to succeed? Look, when you lose, so on the scoreboard, you're not that far off. But when you look at first downs, 29-9, which is the biggest first down discrepancy in Broncos history since 1966, which, by the way, something I learned today, the Broncos had a game in which they had 0 first downs. That's how they opened the 1966 season. Can you imagine that? 0 first downs, and yet they still scored a touchdown because they had a touchdown on a kickoff return in that loss to the Houston Oilers. So, minus 20 first down differential is the biggest first down differential in 59 years. So, what that tells you is the Broncos, they can get big plays, but they can't do things consistently. The only thing they did consistently offensively on Sunday was 3 and outs because they had 6 of them. 11 non-deal down possessions, and more than half of them were 3 and outs. So they've got to start by getting into rhythm. The problem is you have defenses that are still focused on taking away the rhythm and timing from Bo Nix. So I think the first thing they need to do, and we saw some inkling of that at times today, but not always. I think the first thing they need to do is say, we're a running team. That's what we do best. It's what we're most effective at. It's what's going to allow us to sustain some drives, and when it works, dictate the tempo and minimize defensive exposures. So I think teams have to find their identity. Good teams find an identity. I think the Broncos need to find their identity on the ground and say, we are a running team first. That is a start. Number two, and this is obvious, you've got to stop shooting yourself in the foot. The things that are within your control. Pre-snap penalties, got to cut those. The penalty that Hufanga had, the late unnecessary roughness. You ragdoll a guy there after the stop, you're going to get flagged. I think I know Pat Surtain, he thought that was a bit of a bogus penalty, but that's something they're going to call. Like it or not, they're going to call it. We can debate whether it should be a penalty or not, but you have to adapt to the reality of how these things are being adjudicated in the National Football League of 2025. Adapt or die, as Billy Beane said in Moneyball. Okay. So there's that. And on, defensively, you're going to have to tighten up coverage a little bit because, again, like I mentioned with PS2, if teams are throwing in his direction, it changes the entire complexion of what you do coverage-wise. Now you've got to, now your safeties have to cover a little bit more. Now you've got to watch a little bit more, basically. So it's going to require some adaptation there. These aren't huge things. And you can look at the last two games and you can point to you can really say one play here, one play there would have made the difference. One of those deep balls being completed, you probably win the game on Sunday. Last week, if one of those two red zone drives in the fourth quarter ends in points, good chance you win that game. But if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. The ifs and buts don't mean crap. Okay? It's nothing. It's rubbish. So give me a buck. Oh, hang on, Beavis. Oh, okay. The cheesesteak fajita burrito at Buc-ee's is amazing. Like when I go to Buc-ee's, sometimes I drive up. I drive up to the location by Johnstown, and I'll get one to have in the moment, and then I'll get one to go. And I also get the smoked turkey sandwich as well. But the cheesesteak, yeah. As we're getting into the food portion of the show here, the Texas cheesesteak burrito is amazing at Buc-ee's. I introduced Cecil Lammy to that on our Shrine Bowl trip back in January. I'm like, hey, you have to try this. This is a symphony of flavor. And he loved it. Absolutely loved it. I'm always glad when I can introduce somebody to something really good in food. But I'm always nervous when I say, hey, I think you'll love this. I'm always nervous until the end as they take that first bite, like, are they really going to like it? Like, I don't want to be disappointed because I've like hyped it up so much. But the Texas cheesesteak burrito so far has not disappointed anyone to whom I've introduced it. It's batting 1,000. So anyway, yeah, I gave 5 pounds. Listen, just thinking about it, they are so good. Yep. It was a great play by Keenan Allen. Yeah, Keno, you're right. And I did say, I mean, Riley Moss had good coverage on the play. Like, he's right. Like, it's a great throw. It's a great catch. You tip the cap. But it was not a very good game overall for Riley. But that was one of the moments where he did have good coverage. So anyway, so why no Pat Bryant? Yep, not involved today again. So how many more non-contact injuries did happen for the NFL to get rid of turf fields? Ask Crumble Cookies. Yeah, that was tough for Najee Harris today. I mean, that replay was brutal to watch. I didn't like. I didn't like the fact that CBS showed it in slow motion like that. That was not pleasant to watch. So anyway. Yeah, and I agree. Crumble. That was sort of what I was saying. Make this a run-first offense. And you know what? Here's the thing. To use Sean Payton's words, the two things that support a young quarterback best are run game and defense. Okay, last year it was the D and not the run game. This year, it's the run game, but not the D. Like, it's sort of the frustrating thing. It's like it sort of encapsulates this season as well. Like, you get one thing, but not the other. Last week, your offense puts it together, but your defense allows nearly 500 yards. This week, you run the ball at times really well, and your defense plays well for a decent portion of the game, but lets down late. They can't play a 3-phase game. They can't play a 4-quarter game. You just want to see it come together. They're so rarely do all the pieces come together for this team. I mean, really, when did it come together? It came together against the Chiefs JV. Whoop-de-doo, that was the Chiefs JV. It came together against the Falcons last year. Like, that is as good as it has looked for this team. That was the glimpse that told you, wow, anything's possible. But it has not been like that since then. It has been a futile quest to get back to that level of completeness, at least against teams that are putting their best out there. Something's always been missing. If the Broncos can find it, they're going to be in great shape, but that's a big if. It's hard to do. There's no such thing as an easy game in the NFL. So, anyway, Denver football after dark here on this Monday morning. And one last comment here before I go here to get a little bit of rest before the conference call on Monday morning here. And this is from Ronald Ortiz, because I just saw this, and I think this sums it up. It says, I'm getting to the point of waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, how are we going to lose this one? And I want to put that in there, because I think, that sums up how a lot of people feel, and frankly, even how I felt watching the end of this game, because like I said earlier, when Justin Herbert completed that first pass on the last drive, I thought, okay, the Chargers are going to win this game. There's a lot I put in terms of analytics and data and all that, and numbers and quantifiable stuff, but there is also the feel. And I couldn't shake that feeling that after that first completion and seeing the way the Chargers looked and the way the Broncos looked, that the Chargers were going to win this game. You see it in their steps, you see it in how the guys, are they hanging their heads, or are they, they lively. And I think part of this goes to some of what J.K. Dobbins was saying about learning how not to lose before you can learn how to win. And I would even extend beyond that. It's learning how to win against good teams. The Broncos know how to win against lousy teams. They proved that last year, and we saw that in week 1. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this. Y'all are going to hate me for this. But there is a point that Nick Wright has that is correct. Because one of the things he did say in his critique of the Broncos, and this is an accurate statement, he talked about last year, their wins mostly coming against teams who had different quarterbacks, or those quarterbacks were no longer there because they were benched or let go or whatever, because they weren't very good, right? For whatever reason. Like, you go through most of those wins, like you say, okay, they beat the Jets with Aaron Rodgers, and they beat the Raiders with Gardner Minshew, and they beat the Saints with Spencer Rattler, and they, so forth. So most of the Kirk Cousins in Atlanta benched since then. You go down the line with the wins. Jameis Winston no longer with the Browns. Anthony Richardson benched. Right? Carson Wentz, Chiefs, end of the season, no longer there. Now he's a Viking. I mean, it's Baker Mayfield still there. Spencer Rattler in New Orleans still there. Bryce Young in Carolina still there. It's not many. So there's really only one win that this iteration of the Broncos. I think this iteration of the Broncos starts from opening day of 2024, the Bo Nix era. Only one win that this team can really hang its hat on, and that is the win at Tampa Bay last year. Ironically, not ironically, but it's just interesting, the first win of this era. The one where they kind of surprised everybody. And that's the one quality win they have. And since then, they haven't gotten it done against the quality teams. They lose at home to the Chargers. They got throttled at Baltimore. They come close against Kansas City, but then Dave Toub finds the weakness in protection, sends Leo Chenal there at Alex Forsythe, and they block the kick. They go back out to the Chargers in December. Game management snafu at the end of the first half, fair catch, free kick, really kind of starts the spiral of things. Cincinnati, defense can't get off the field, can't force a punt in regulation. And again, another curious move because the Broncos don't go for 2 at the end of regulation. And then Buffalo, kind of like the Baltimore game, just throttled. And now the last 2 weeks against Indianapolis and the Chargers, just not enough to get done. Maybe you're making some progress that you're not getting throttled, but still something is missing. They can't get over the hump. You'd like to think eventually they will. And perhaps once they do, that will change everything for this team. You're not going to find out next week because you're going against a Jake Browning Bengals team. So next week's not going to answer that. Your next chance to answer that is in Philadelphia. And then probably the next chance to answer that Really? May not be until Kansas City in November. So this is the thing that may kind of be frustrating here, is that this is not something you may get the answer on for a while, because you only get so many shots to do this. It's probably the Philadelphia game, the Kansas City game, the Washington game, the Green Bay game. I mean, at Kansas City, and then Chargers at home at the end. Depends if they're playing for something. These are your chances to prove that you're more than you have been. There are enough other games that the Broncos can win. These are the types of games the Broncos have proven they can win. If they hold serve and do what they have been doing, they're a playoff team, just like they were last year. But one thing I know, and I know from hearing this from Greg Penner himself, is that a season that ends in the same manner as it did last year, with a loss in the wild card round, will not be considered a success inside that building. It'll be considered a failure, a disappointment. Thus, this team has to prove and show it can win games like this. Otherwise, it's not going forward. Sunday was another opportunity lost, just like week 2 was an opportunity lost. They can win against Cincinnati, but the step forward for this team, the one that it needs to take, the next chance for that doesn't happen until they get to South Philly. On that note, going to wrap this up here. Just wanted to get that off my chest here at the end of the show. This has been Denver Football After Dark, post-game edition after the 23-20 loss to the Los Angeles Chargers. Appreciate all of you joining me here for this very, very, very late night show. And whether you're watching in the daytime or the nighttime, appreciate you joining me here. Like, comment, share, subscribe so you can catch all the videos that pop up on this channel. I'll have another edition after Monday Night Football from back in Denver to kind of wrap up the week and wrap up what we hear from Sean Payton on Monday. A little bit of a different week this week, by the way, because it's a Monday Night Football week, so we actually won't have normal stuff in terms of Broncos content until Thursday, so it's not going to be a normal football Wednesday, so probably there won't be a show on Tuesday. There'll probably be a show on Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. So be on the lookout for that. So, but everything's just a little bit different for a Monday Night Football week. So appreciate you hanging with me. And yes, Beavis, I may go get myself a cheesesteak fajita burrito next time I head north. I need to have an excuse to head north on I-25. Maybe I need to take I-25, exit 235, then 5 miles west to the tree farm. I just gave them some free advertising. So anyway, this has been Denver Football After Dark for this Sunday night into Monday morning after week 3. Appreciate all of you joining me here for this show, and I'll talk to you again on Monday. And if you want a real quick recap and you haven't watched it, check elsewhere on this channel for my post-game recap from SoFi Stadium. It's about a little 5 minutes. Although if you watch this show to this conclusion, you basically heard everything I would have said in there, just in the longer form. So anyway, appreciate you joining me, and I'll talk to you again on Monday night after Monday Night Football. Take care and have yourself a great Monday. Bye-bye.